Tell me about how you managed to achieve that look and how you work with your cinematographer. You worked on 3 features together, including your most recent film, Peterson, that we'll see the last clip of. How do you go about establishing the look that you want for a film with your cinematographer and getting this kind of result?
Well, it starts out with me having very often some idea, and then we meet and he will say, well, I saw this, or, I think of, for instance, on this film he said, I think we should be really careful with using close-ups. Part of this film takes, a big portion of this film takes place inside of a cabin which is no larger than really this, area here. And it was a great challenge to try to have visual variety, and we would be very close to all kinds of surfaces. So I had some ideas. I wanted to have very much gritty and real feel to everything because we would be so close to it. And he said, yeah, but I think we should be really careful about close-ups. And then we started talking about what was the real quality in the film, what was the theme, how could we contribute visually to that. And gradually he swayed me away from some of my ideas, and then in our dialectic, new things came up. Svalbard is so incredibly beautiful. We did deliberately as a way to get beyond the sort of postcard aspects of it, because I wanted to feel like, these people live there, so they don't have a very,
worshipful.
Right, it's their everyday life. So I took him and I said, let's spend a week and look at locations and get used to it, so we can get over that sort of initial beauty part of it. And I think that was a great contribution to this. So, because although it's a lot of snow and a lot of beauty, there's a lot of dirt and rocks, and it's an Arctic desert, so there's a lot of unpleasantness, it's a tough place to move.
How difficult was it to actually shoot there then? And how long did you spend shooting this picture?
We shot, I think, I was 6-7 weeks in Svalbard, and we lived on the ship. We had a small old ship that we had as our base, and then we used snowmobiles and dogs and helicopter to get around. There's no infrastructure there, so it's tough. And when I see this dog sled action scene, it just reminds me how hard it is to make something action-packed on dogs, and it's like, come on, guys,
Although the Norwegians have an interesting relationship with dogs, quite different than the British do. I mean, for example, I was interested that when Scott made his ill-fated attempt on the South Pole, Amundsen and the Norwegian team took a very different approach. Scott, actually, he brought dogs. They ended up man-hauling all the way to the South Pole, but he brought dogs. But they felt sorry for the dogs' feet out on the snow, so they actually took the dogs, put them in the sled, and the men hauled the sled back to the base camp. Whereas the Norwegians under Amundsen carefully planned things out, so they didn't have to take as much food going down, because they knew they would butcher the dogs one by one on the way back and feed dogs to dogs.
Yep.
I mean, that's a very different attitude towards our...
But if you want to reach the South Pole, it's the way to go.
And they did, with clinical, efficiency.
I think that it's interesting, because when I screened this film for the Cannes jury, I happened to be in the same day that Brigitte Bardot had a demonstration outside the Norwegian embassy, and I had a main character who's got sealskin clothing, So I met with the distributor who said, it's a wonderful film, I like it very much, but I will not distribute it because its treatment of animals and especially dogs, will not go over well in Britain. I said, well, it's a film, it's not my point of view. And I said, yeah, but I don't think it's going to happen. And and said, and what's going to be the disclaimer on the end of this film? And
a number of dogs were badly treated in the manning of this film.
And we actually, for days, we were being actually in communication with the CAM people, and they had a real dilemma. And
maybe by Norwegian standards, relatively few animals were badly treated.
Right, well, we figured all of those things wouldn't work, so I decided I was going to say no animal died in this film that didn't deserve it.
But for now, I'd just like you to join me in thanking Hans-Petter Moland for coming all this way back to Aberdeen. It's been a real joy to have you. Many, many thanks.